This is my review of the entire 2023 year of the Lake Martin Waterfront real estate market. It was a year of the mega sale. It was a year of a crazy lot sale, and we got an election looming. And what's going to happen to prices? Stay tuned and find out. Okay, we got a lot to cover, so I'm going to get right to it. This is the time of the big report. We moved the green sofas out of the way, and we are covering Lake Martin home sales in this first slide for the entire year of 2023. The big question was where's the market going to go, and I wanted to show you. In 2023, we had a total of 244 home sales. I'm about going to knock the easel down because I had to turn it sideways because I wanted to go back in history and show you the trends here. So our home sales, we had that's Lake Martin MLS, all brokerages, everybody, the entire lake, 244 residents, waterfront residences. That is down 11% from the prior year of 280, and certainly down off the Corona peak of 483. But the reason I wanted to show you all these years, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but it has been since 2012. I had to go all the way back to 2012 to find a year that had fewer home sales than this year, because last year it was in 2013 was 269, but in 2012 we had 239. This year we had about 244. So one way to look at it is this is the fewest number of homes sold since 2012. Is that a big shocker? No, not really. We've been following the trends to see what the home sales trends were, but it is, once you look at it and kind of look at the history of it, you can see the trends there. Okay, do we have fewer sales though? Don't we have fewer sales because we have fewer homes to sell? That's the thing we've been hearing over and over and over again. That's not exactly true. Let's take a look a little bit closer. In December of 22, we had 79 waterfront homes for sale on the entire lake. In December of 23, we had 101. And that's actually an increase of about 28%. And now we're still below our 5-year average of 116. We're still off that about 15%. So, but hang on, you might say, you're cherry picking December. December's a low month. You're looking at 1 month to say, oh, inventory's up 28% when you compare to the prior year. Not really. I looked at every single month of the months of 2023, and I found that average inventory compared to the previous year was up in 23, 45%, 33%, 18%, 28%, 28%. Pretty much every single, maybe 11 out of 12 months, when you compare it year to year, 2023 had this much higher inventory than compared to 2022. So when sales are down 11%, numbers of homes sold are down 11%, and inventory is up like at least 30%, that to me is a growing data for the fact that we are not in a seller's market anymore, but in fact, flat, maybe even teetering toward a buyer's market, I don't know. But I agree that we're still below our 5-year average, but not that far behind our 5-year average, only 15%. So I don't think I'm cherry picking. But really what a lot of people ask is, how does this affect prices? But I really, really believe in comparing the numbers of homes sold and the inventory. That's like our meat and potatoes of real estate, right? We always need to follow those statistics every single year to spot trends. And the trends we're going to see play out is in prices again. I've been doing this a long time, but I've only given you 3 years here because I wanted to show you what it looks like. So what we're doing here is we're looking at waterfront home sales at the lake in 2023, and we're looking at what I call my percent of sales slide. Where did they fall? Every single one of these home sales, what was the percent of the market? So let's see. All right, so 0 to 250. How many, what was the percent of our market there? It was only 1% this year. What about 251 to 500? This year, it was about 11% of the market. 500 to 750, what about that? This year, it was about 23% of the market. Okay, 751 to 1 million. All right, last year was 19% of the market. What happened? This year is 23% of the market. All right, now it gets really interesting. $1 million to $1.25 million. If you remember, from last year, the average home sale from 2022 was about 1.1 million. So this is where we should expect the fat part of the bell curve to happen, all right? So $1 million to $1.25 million this year was 12%. All right, $1.25 million to $1.5 million. I'm starting to get down here low, and my little easel is so flimsy it might fall down. 9.5%. All right, $1.5 million to 1.75 million. That was 5%. And all right, I'm getting down on my knees now. 1.75 to 2 was 5%. All right, and last year the big shocker, because it was 10% of our sales, was 2 million and over category. What happened this year? It was 11% this year. Okay, so we kind of step back and kind of look at this, and so this is where we're going. This is another feather in the cap, I think, and maybe I'm just plucking at things that I think is going to make me right here. But this is what I'm pointing at when I think that prices were flat in 2023. We did not have an increase. Why am I saying that? Well, first of all, because of my gut, that's how it felt. Okay, I sell here full time. I'm in the trenches. I've helped buyers and sellers negotiate contracts, and it just didn't feel like there was that explosive increase in pressure that we had in these 3 years. My gut. All right, number two is my head. I just didn't see a lot of the houses that were. There were several houses last year in 2023 that were for sale. They were also for sale in 2022 that sold in 22. So you would think naturally, if the prices are increasing, they would sell for more, right? Well, they didn't. All right, so let's look though, because this is what I think is a market-wide shift when you step back and look at the market. All right, so in 2021, we had a market shift. Can you see that? Because the majority of the homes were 251 to 500. You see that how it shifted up, and so the two biggest bands we had in 20, the Corona year that was crazy nuts, it had a ton of home sales, and it shifted. So the highest bands in 21 were 500 and 750, okay? And then in 22, it shifted again. The highest bands, you had equal band here, a little bit lower there, albeit, a big shift there, a big shift there, a big shift there. So it shifts, okay? You can just see this visually, in my opinion. All right, so now let's look and see what happened in 23. All right, what I'm going to do is circle in red the ones that went down and then blue the ones that went up. All right, red here, red here, red here. I'll probably mess this up since y'all are watching. All right. Oh, red here, missed that one. Okay, and then blue are the ones that increased. Here, 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 and here. Okay, so now let's take a step back and take a look at it. We got a 1% minus there. Okay, I'll give you that. 1% minus there. Okay, I'll give that. If we let those wash, I think we're looking at mostly a flat year, because if that one washed, did we see any big, huge jumps? Did we see any big, huge gains? The only one we did was in 750 to $1 million, and that's where, remember, last year our average sale was 1.1 million. So, that is the evidence I'm looking at I think prices were flat. Now, if you stay tuned, I'll tell you, I had some predictions from 2022 that I made of 23 that I got wrong, okay? So you can stay tuned for those. And by the way, if you'd like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I do stuff like this all the time. I'm putting out videos weekly now. I made a big more commitment to video in 24. And so if you want to be notified first, the way to do that is to go to YouTube and subscribe to me, please. Thanks. So what were the top neighborhood in sales on Lake Martin in 2023? All right, clocking in with 20 homes and a total of $49.8 million. Number one was the Ridge. And I probably should start from the bottom and work up, but I don't work like that. All right, what was the next one? This one I'm calling the Willows, because this includes Willow Point, Willow Glen, the Willows. I'm kind of lumping all those together. 7 homes sold there for a total of $27.4 million. They came in number 2. All right. Who was number 3? Stillwater's. A neighborhood, one of the largest in area and largest in number of homes on the Dayville side. They're number 3 at 29 homes at $20 million. All right, what was number 4? Number 4 is another Russell Lands neighborhood that I always call it my shorthand win-win, because it's Windermere, Windermere West, and Wendover. I'm kind of lumping all those together too. It's near to the Ridge, but they're just outside of it. 6 homes sold there for a total of about $10 million. All right, what was number 5? Magnolia Cove. 8 homes sold there. That's a new construction community on the Dayville side on Blue Creek. 8 homes sold there for about a total of $9.1 million. And then next is the Village. the Village, looking really sloppy here, sorry. 7 homes sold there for a total of $63 million. $6.3 million. And by the way, the total amount of homes sold on the lake for 2023 was $286.2 million. Now, I've done something sneaky to you. There's one at the top. There's a place that sold 95 houses for a total of $75.1 million. And the name of the subdivision is none. There's really, it's not really a subdivision. There's really, most of the homes that sell in Lake Martin, as you'll see, they're not really in like a neighborhood that you would think of. Now, there may be a name for the neighborhood, but it's really sort of out in the country. So in our MLS, we just call those none. So I wanted to throw that out there to give you perspective of, relative to the bigger neighborhoods, most of the houses sold at Lake Martin are still outside of a formal neighborhood. All right, so a lot of people wonder too, what was the top sale? And I always wonder myself. All right, so the top sale last year was clocked in at $5.99 million, and it was a house in Willow Point. So, all right, so it's in this stat right here. So almost $6 million sold in Willow Point in 2023, and it was the 2023 top sale. What was the lowest sale? The lowest sale was $240K. And it was a manufactured home in Tallapoosa County. And so it clocked in. So as you can see, we got a high and a low here, right? $240K on the low side, about $6 million on the high side. All right, so what was the average price? That's a fair thing to calculate. If you divide that, sure, you probably do this at home, right? But 286 million divided by 244 homes is about 1.173 million. Now, last year, it was about 1.031. So if you just do average price, you can see that it increased. I'm bad at math. Maybe that's about 8 or 9%. So you say, wait a minute, John, you just spent like 3 slides making the case that sale prices were flat in 23. What gives this average price? If you hang on, I'm going to make the case a little bit later to you and explain how I'm thinking on this. So on home prices, we've seen that the average price was high, but I keep on saying, hey, I think it's flat. I think it's flat. We didn't shift. Here's another reason why I think values and prices were flat in 2023. And this I call top of the muffin to you. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan like I am. I love the show. And there was the one where Elaine talked her boss, Mr. Littman, into opening up a shop where all he sells are the top of the muffins. It was called Top of the Muffin to you. But anyway, muffin top seemed a little kind of crude, so I didn't want to use that. But anyway, so believe it or not, this has something to do with Lake Martin real estate prices, all right? So when I saw that the average price was higher in 23 and 22, even though my theory is that sales were flat, I looked a little bit deeper. And what I found was very interesting, and I think kind of confirming what I'm talking about. In 2023, I looked of the 6 highest sales in the history of Lake Martin, right? They put the plug in like 1926, whenever it was. We start selling, all the realtors come on the scene with our car magnets and our chipper attitudes and like leaning backwards. Now my kids make fun of me like leaning backwards. But anyway, realtors start happening, all that stuff. The top 6 sales in Lake Martin history, of those, how many happened in 2023? The answer is 3. So 3 out of 6 of the highest ever happened in 23. And so that's why I think it created an outsized input. So I compared it to last year. Now last year in 2022, the top 5 sales netted $20 million. In 23, they netted 26, or they totaled rather $26 million. And so when I looked at the importance of the top 5 sales relative to the entire year, I found that in 23, they had a 38% more influence on the year than in 2022, because remember, we have a 12% fewer sales in 23, right? So you're looking at, because we had a fewer number of sales and you had the 3 of the highest sales ever, it's like the muffin top. That's where my top of the muffin to you happens, right? It's like the muffin blooming over. It's a top heavy situation, right? So I think 2023 was the year of the top heavy sales, or the year of the mega sales, if you want to call it that. That sounds a little bit more like, real estate-y and tech mega sale. I like top of the muffin to you. So that's another reason why I think if you just look at average price increase, you're not getting the entire story. And if you're a seller that's looking to sell in 2024 and you're counting on an 11 or whatever that is, or 8 to 9% increase, you're going to get, I think you're going to get hurt by it. If you're a buyer and you just kind of go blindly into it thinking, the market's blistering hot, I think you're going to have some challenges too. Okay, for home sales around Lake Martin in 2023, what are some quick hit stats? I call this my quick hit slide. Because I get a lot of questions about this when I'm working with buyers and sellers, because I sell full time here. This is all I do. And so I get these kind of questions all the time. So first of all, how many new home sales were there in 2023? Last year, they were 7%. This year is about 18%. I think the prior year, like 21, was around 16. So these kind of fluctuate. No big trend that I see here. What about cash sales? I get that question a lot too. What are the odds if somebody buys a house in 2023? It was 41%. So about 41% chance this is going to be a cash sale. And now last year it was 25%. So I was like, whoa, that's a huge amount. Maybe that's a big trend. Well, then I looked and I saw that, now I Googled it, right? So who knows if I got that right or not. But anyway, according to the Google machine, 38% of home sales last year in 2023 were cash. So, no big whoop, right? And then I thought, well, maybe, let me look at it by dollars amount. That's by units. But by dollars, it's 45%. So I thought, well, maybe because we had a lot of big sales, that would be out of whack. So it's kind of similar. So to me, no big story there. All right, then I also looked at what county some of these sales were in. Now, Lake Martin's made up of 3 counties: Tallapoosa County, Elmore County, and Coosa County. Now, this won't mean a whole lot to probably most people because, nobody really talks about what county they live in. But I wanted to kind of spread it out and show you. All right, Tallapoosa County makes up 71%. Last year made up 71%. And mostly I did this for my own curiosity because I remember telling somebody a few years ago that Elmore County and Coosa County made up 30% of the market. And so sometimes I want to check myself before I wreck myself. And so, yeah, I'm still pretty right on that. It's, pretty close. Elmore County last year was 25% of home sales, and Coosa County is the smallest county, made up 4% of those home sales. And so then I thought, okay, well, nobody really talks about their county. They're more apt to talk about the area they live in. And so I just looked at 4 major areas. And yes, I know there's a lot bigger area. There's a lot more areas than this. If you go to my website, I have a neighborhoods page where I have probably 20 or 25 neighborhoods or geographic areas that I split it all out. And but anyway, so I split it all out. All right, so so I've got North Lake up here, West Kalijah Bridge, Kalijah Bay, and Blue Creek. All right, last year, 17% of sales happened west of Kalijah Bridge. 21% happened in an area I'm calling Kalijah Bay. 38% happened in Blue Creek. And 24% happened in North Lake. Now, I do this slide, I'm giving you this for a couple of reasons. A lot of times I get a lot of people, especially from Alabama, that grew up going to the lake. And a lot of times they're what I call geographically focused, which is fine. But I find that my geographically focused people are either focused on one of 2 things. They're either focused on they want to be in Kalijah Bay or west of the bridge. That's people that like from Montgomery or Birmingham or Alabama that grew up going to the lake. That's kind of what they think of as the lake. And then my other geographically focused people tend to go east because they're coming from Georgia or, Atlanta. I was going to say Georgia or Atlanta, but Atlanta is actually in Georgia. You can learn so much from my video here, not only just real estate, but anyway. All right, so Blue Creek's 38% and North Lake's 24%. This is honestly kind of heavy on how I how I define Blue Creek. Blue Creek's the southeast side. I did not count Sandy Creek, which is just one rung above it in terms of it's one road north of there. And North Lake, I've lumped in Sandy Creek all the way up to Irwin Shoals. So it's a huge geographic area, but for home sales, it's actually pretty small. All right, well, what about condo sales? Condos, and by the way, for this, I included like condos, townhome, villas, all sorts of multifamily waterfront sales on Lake Martin in 2023. What are some stats about it? Okay, here's what we learned. In 21, they made up about 16% of the market. In 22, about 21% of the market. So what happened in 23? We've returned to about that 16% number. Okay, so I don't think there's any big news there, right? But we're returning to about 16%. All right, what about the distribution? I get a lot of questions about this from my sellers of condos and my buyers. How does it, split out? Hey, if I, how many sales were there, and how does it all split out? All right, so what I found was we had 2 one-bedroom sales last year in 23. We had 14 two-bedroom sales, 19 three-bedroom, and 1 4-bedroom. So most of your sales are going to be either 2 or 3 bedrooms. And what were the price ranges? The 2 bedrooms, they went from about $399 to about $600. The 3 bedrooms were about $376 to $765. So that's why, and then we had that 1 4-bedroom sale for $629. I believe that was in Crown Point. All right, so my rule of thumb for condos, if somebody says, hey, I'd like to buy a condo and I want to have a 2-bedroom, I usually, right now, I tell them, it's about low 400s. And in the if you say, well, I want a condo, but I want a 3-bedroom, I tell you about mid 600s. So those are the rule of thumb if you're considering either selling your condo or buying your condo. All right. So next question is what condo complexes of these sales right here? Where did they come from? Well, the highest number came from Crown Point at 13. The next was Stoneview Summit at 7. Harbor Point at 6, and then Sunset Point at 5. That's actually a 5 there, and North Lake Condo Club at 2. You'll notice, people that know the lake well will notice that Harbor Point, Stoneview, and Sunset, those all 3 are in the Stillwaters neighborhood I mentioned earlier in the video. That's most of the condo complexes are inside Stillwaters. However, Crown Point is outside Stillwaters. And it's on the Blue Creek, so it's clear. It's near Martin Dam. It's near Chuck's, and so they're outside the neighborhood of Stillwaters. And North Lake Condo Club, that is also outside. It's on the Alexander City side of the lake. It's almost pretty much the extreme north. It's really near Highway 280, also called the River Bridge. I don't know if anybody calls it River Bridge anymore. There used to be like a restaurant at the top of that thing called the River Bridge. I think it was the River Bridge Restaurant. It was a really great name. But anyway, that's where North Lake Condo is. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of, all right, where are these sales happening? Okay, what about waterfront lots on Lake Martin in 2023? What happened? All right, let's look at our total sales first. The numbers of waterfront lots sold. Last year, we're at 117 lots. This year, how many did we do? This is all agents, all brokerages, sold 91 lots on the entire lake. That's a decrease of 23% from the prior year, and this is the second or third year of lot decreasing in a row, which is, we've seen this trend coming along, and I think it's going to help us kind of know where lots are going to be next year, because it looks like the lot market is lagging about a year behind the waterfront home market. So more about that later, but I think what we're going to see in 24 with the lot market is sales are going to be down again and prices are going to be flat, but let's see what happens. All right, so inventory, that was increased slightly, and so that goes against the supply and demand thing too. Higher inventory, lower number of lots sold. It's supply and demand. The market is cooling off. Now, what counties? Where did all these sales happen? And if you watch the part about where I talk about homes, you'll see that these trends pretty much hold almost exactly the same. About 70% of the lot sales are happening in Coosa County, and then Elmore and Coosa, pretty small. All right, so what about west of Kalijah Bridge? I'll have a lot of buyers that say, hey, look, I want to build my own house. And I just want to build it on the old side of the lake, which a lot of people consider Kalijah Bay and west of Kalijah Bridge. I just want to build on the old side of the lake, but I want to build my own thing. Well, okay, that's cool, but know that you're kind of limiting yourself, because west of Kalijah Bridge and in Kalijah Bay were 10 and 19% of the lot sales respectively. So you only have about a 29% chance to be able to build your own house on the Kalijah Bay or the west of Kalijah. And honestly, of these 19%, a bunch of those were in the Ridge. I included that in Kalijah Bay for the purposes of this discussion. So that's in a formal neighborhood too. So again, if you're saying, hey, I want to be on the old side of the lake, but I don't want to be in a neighborhood and I want a lot, like, you're shrinking yourself way down. So it's only really about probably 10% of the market, because some of these in West Kalijah Bridge are in Trillium, which is another neighborhood, another Russell Lands neighborhood. So just to kind of set the stage there. All right, so what about Blue Creek? Now, Blue Creek used to be the tops, right? Because so many lot sales were going on in Stillwaters and other such places like that. But Blue Creek last year was only 11% of the lot market, whereas North Lake was 57%. So, all right, what happened? A consistent theme, if you've been watching these videos, is the Heritage happened. Russell Lands has a new neighborhood. It's called the Heritage, and it is it's pretty much what I would classify as North Lake. I mean, it's off of it's about halfway up 63 in between Kalijah Bridge and Alexandria City on the east side of 63. So if you're looking at a map to get to it, you've got to go all the way around the ridge, and I'm pretending there's a map here, all the way around the ridge and go up towards like Peanut Point. And so it's pretty much in North Lake territory. But that's why we saw a huge swing to the North Lake area, and I'll detail out exactly how many later. Prices for waterfront lots on Lake Martin, what's the percent of the market in 2023? All right, so this year, or 23, it was about the same. If you wanted to say, hey, I want a lot from $0 to $100,000, it's about 3% of the market. If you're looking at about 100 to 200,000, last year it was about 6% of the market. 200 to 300 was 14% of the market. 300 to 400 is 16. 400 to 500, 11%. And 500 to 600 is kind of a no man's land there of only 2%. And then over 600, 47% of the market. So what can we learn from these stats? What I think is, I do think we had an increase in waterfront prices last year for lots. So just like we had in 22 for homes, I think we had a shift. Because if you look, when the major bands shift up like that, see that shift? Yeah, it went down there, and you're pretty much even there. But that's why I think we have a price increase in lots only in 23. What do I think it's going to do in 24? I think it's going to be flat, because we saw the same thing for waterfront houses last year, didn't we? So that's my prediction. All right, so another person, and you also might think, okay, well, gosh, why is this huge amount right here, 600 plus? Well, again, the Heritage. Almost every answer, like in Sunday school, almost every answer in Sunday school is Jesus, right? This year, now I'm not saying the Heritage is Jesus, all right? Please don't hear me say that. All right, but this year, if you're asking, well, why did something that's happened with lots? Probably because of the Heritage. This was such a huge influence these past 2 years. So what happened was, in 22, they had 39 sales, and that's what created that 49%. And this year, I want to say they had like 27 sales in the Heritage. So it, again, was an outsized influence. And honestly, I don't know how it'll be in 24. I know they're releasing some phases. I don't know how many. It'll depend on how many they put through the MLS. They're a private developer, Russell Lands, and sometimes they hold them out of the MLS, and sometimes they put them in. So it's just going to depend how many they put in. But the overall big picture question, or the overall big picture lesson to know is, I think, yes, we had a price increase in lots in 2023. So if we break it all down by neighborhood, what does it look like? 2023 lot sales, the top neighborhood with 28 lot for sale for a total of $32.6 million. Do I even have to tell you who won? The Heritage, right? That says Heritage. Just trust me. I'm over here on some shaky ground. All right, what came in? What neighborhood number 2? For 16 lots at $6.5 million, our old friend, None. Right? And again, I realize some of these are in some neighborhoods, but they're not in a formal neighborhood that the MLS has recognized. But generally speaking, about 16 lots kind of scattered around Lake Martin that weren't in a formal neighborhood for a total of about $6.5 million in 23. Coming in third with 7 lots is the Ridge, and a total of almost $6 million on those 7 lots. Fourth was Miners Cove, 7 lots for $2.8 million. Coming in fifth was the Willows. Again, I always lump the Willow Point, Willow Glen, the Willows all together. 5 at $4.5 million. And then last, Kennebec. It's very sloppy, sorry. Kennebec sold 4 lots for $1.4 million. So that's how it breaks down by neighborhood. Now, the lowest sale, and again, we're looking at this is all brokerages, entire lake. The lowest lot sale in 23 was $67,500, and that was in a neighborhood called Andrew Jackson. The Andrew Jackson subdivision is on the north side of the lake. It's above the railroad trestle. Actually, I think maybe last in 22 they also were mentioned in that capacity. All right, so what was the highest lot sale this year? The highest lot sale this year was $3.5 million, and which last year I believe the record was $3 million. So, and it was in the Ridge, this lot sale. Now, a little bit caveat here. I think this actually made up multiple parcels and multiple lots. So you might can split hairs and say it wasn't one lot that sold for 3.5, but they put it in the MLS as one lot sale. So that's why I'm saying, hey, scoreboard, baby, right? So I'm calling that one sale of $3.5 million. Now, was this a personal record? And the answer is yes. So it wasn't me personal, but it was Lake Martin personal. Like if you're, a CrossFit person or whatever, a Peloton, like PR, your personal record. All right, so this was a personal record for Lake Martin, $3.5 million for a lot sale. I also get asked a lot, what's the cash percentage? And so, in 23, we had $61.1 million worth of, in total, of lot sales in the MLS. How many of those were cash? About 50%. So about half of those waterfront lot sales were cash. I'm going to try to make some predictions here for the real estate market on Lake Martin for 2024. This is when I get out on thin ice, right? It gets a little scary. But first, I think I need to address what I got wrong for 2023. If you've been doing this long enough and you're in real estate, which is, you're going to get it wrong, okay? If you don't get it wrong, you ain't trying, right? All right, so what did I get wrong in 2023? Many things. Many things. Among those that y'all care about is the prices, all right? And if you go back and look at my my video, I got prices wrong in 23. I predicted that prices would fall in 2023, and I was wrong, okay? I think prices were flat. Now, most people didn't think they would be flat, but I'm gonna admit when I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot, and I got that flat out wrong. All right, what did I get right? Okay, I did get a few things right in 2023. I don't want to be like humble bragging up in here, but I do think I warned sellers that that their days on market would become important in 2023. And I saw that happen a lot with my negotiations when I'm helping on the selling side and on the buying side. Buyers are starting to ask questions on why things are on the market so long. So if sellers are being aggressive and they're putting that hopeful price on there and it's keeping their property on the market a long time, it is getting a little bit of a stigma. So I don't know what to call this. Maybe I'll just write days on market on here. That's what that means, right? All right. All right, so big question. What do I think is going to happen in 2024? Prices, I think prices are going to go down. Now, I realize I got it wrong in 23, right? But I do think prices are going to go down. And what I'm advising my clients, I don't think the bottom's going to fall out. I think it'll maybe go down 3 to 5%. If we're looking at history, the last time we had a downswing, obviously the real estate meltdown and the banks and all that had a lot to do with it, okay? But I think that that's what I think is going to happen, about 3 to 5%. And so I'm advising my sellers and my buyers accordingly. All right, also looking forward with the crystal ball about the election. I get a lot of questions about the election on both sides. Well, I guess both sides of the aisle and on both sides of the debit and the credit side, right? The buyers and the sellers. I'm getting questions like, buyers are asking me, well, should I just wait because the election and won't things be for sale, after the election? And the exact opposite, the sellers say, well, shouldn't I wait because it'll get better after the election? So it's interesting to me, buyers and sellers always have the opposite conclusions about the election, even if they are rooting for the same person. All right, so my big warning here and my big crystal ball is it doesn't have anything to do with the political parties. It has to do with your focus. I don't want your focus, whether you're a buyer or whether you're a seller, I don't want your focus, and that's like a vote, like a voting button. I'm trying to draw here, I'm sorry. I don't want your focus to be on the election. I want your focus to be on, and this is the invisible hand of Adam Smith. I want your focus to be on Adam Smith's invisible hand, the supply and demand, because I've been doing this a while now, a little bit long in the tooth, right? You can see the gray hair is starting to spike out copiously. But one thing's for sure, I've been through this several elections where doomsday has been predicted and where the roaring 20s have been predicted. I've been on both sides of these elections, and the facts are, I'm not saying Lake Martin is immune to elections because I know it's not, but I do know this. that the people that focused on what's in front of them, the supply and demand right in front of them, and not got too macroeconomic high up in the sky, and focused on, okay, if I'm a seller and I'm selling my house, I'm pricing it. I got to price it well, and I've got to look and see what my competition is in my neighborhood or my area, and look at it that way. Don't start thinking about who's going to be president and who's going to be senator and all this sort of thing. Same story. If you're a buyer and you're thinking, oh gosh, I think I can time this thing. I think we're going to do it in November because everybody knows if so-and-so, just fill in the blank, becomes president or, wins the, House of Representatives or whatever. I don't know. Everybody knows it's going to happen. Don't focus on that because I've seen so many people on the buying side regret their inaction. I really have. And I said this elsewhere before, but I'll say it again here. Whether on the buying and selling side, I talked to hundreds of people that have owned lake houses. And not a single one of them has ever said, well, we loved our lake house for 37 years. Those were the most wonderful times we ever had, except for those 4 years that so-and-so was in office. We couldn't stand it. Of course not. The regret I see people having has nothing to do with politics, right? Their kids are getting married at the house, or the lot they have where they built their dream house, or, being able to sell their house and, do other things with the money and the funds and being thankful for that. That's what people focus on. Don't focus on the election. Don't let that ruin it. So if you hung in there this long, thank you. I hope this information has been valuable to you. But I do this for my buyers and my sellers. So if I can help you, whether you're just thinking about making a move, whether you're thinking about selling, it doesn't matter. I'd love to be the one to advise you. I love the lake and I love helping people, and so I'd love to help you out. Please give me a call.